So, as you are aware, that I have joined ISB Mohali campus this year, which is in 2025. Before ISB, I was in the impact sector for around 9 years. Uh, and for last 4, 5 years specifically, I was into impact consulting. So I worked with Dalberg, Grant Thornton, and World Bank recently. So I had opted for in-person interview in Delhi, and it was some hotel, I think ITC Ambassador. I'm not able to recall either one of these good hotels in Delhi, some good property only. And it was all comfortable. Like I didn't feel intimidated at all, maybe because I've given a lot of job interviews before. But for people who have not given a lot of interviews, I can definitely share more information. So they had fixed, like booked, I think some 10, 12 rooms, normal rooms, where they had multiple panels happening at one go. And then there was also one room booked, which was a designated waiting room where all the candidates were supposed to wait until their final interview starts. And then there was one separate room for the essay writing, on-spot essay writing to happen. And at a time, I think 10, 12 of us were there. Like during my slot, there were the 10, 12 people who had the same slot. And interestingly, three of the candidates that I met during my interview hour, three of them have joined ISB Mohali with me. Sure, sure. So once the candidate reaches the venue, they're supposed to be in the waiting room, and after a few minutes, they'll call the candidate for the on-spot essay writing element. The candidate obviously has to carry their laptop. They'll share a link once they enter the essay writing room on the Gmail. Then you have to open the link and log in. They were all situation based. The idea of that essay writing uh, stage is not to judge your critical thinking skills as much. It's mostly just to check your writing skills because now the school fears that everybody might be using Chat GPT basically to write the main essays, the application essays. So they just want to be sure if you have the basic writing skills or not and the basic thinking skills. For example, I had one of the questions that I had was about me working as a part of a professional club in ISP. The candidate is part of a professional club, and he or she is the president of the club. And some member of the club does some mishandling of funds. And we were supposed to answer how should we tackle that, what factors should be kept in mind. So it's very situational. There's no right and wrong here. There are so many different ways by which one can approach this answer, right? What helped me in cracking these answers was good enough practice. So, in fact, I was advised by one of the Preppie consultants only who did a mock interview with me to do a lot of practice. I went to ChatGPT, told ChatGPT that we have to write these type of essays. Give me some practice questions. GPT threw 50 questions to me, and I think wrote at least 10, 15 essays before I went for the final round. So that basically made me prepare myself about a structure that I have to follow. So, for example, I had a very fixed structure in mind after that, after those practice rounds. Whatever the question is, I'll start with the situation, like try to summarize what the situation is and what do we want to achieve, the objective of our resolution, basically. This has happened. Now we want to do this to ensure this. And then uh, just add a opening line for your action steps. To resolve this, we should do the following steps. Then write 3, 4 steps. Whatever the situation, you'll be able to fit this framework into that. And then towards the end, write a conclusion. Okay, with this, you'll achieve this. So basically, there's a storyline that you have in place. So then you don't have to think a lot on the spot if you have some framework in mind. The framework can differ from person to person. The idea is to have something in your mind so that you don't go blank because you have a very limited amount of time to write all of those essays. So do as much practice as possible, have some initial ideas, and you will be good to go. Don't worry so much about it. I had two panel members, a male and a female. And when I went to the interview, I was constantly prepping about this one question that everybody talks about, which is tell us about yourself. At least
Right.
I had heard that every interview starts with that question. So I was mentally prepared about that. But surprisingly, my interview did not start with that. In fact, the interviewer came to the waiting room to escort me. Like 10, 12 of us were sitting after giving after writing the essays, and suddenly somebody comes in and asks, Acha, where's Shivi? I was surprised. I wasn't mentally prepared to be the first person to go for the interview. And then he escorted me to the interview room and then talked to me on the way. Acha, where are you from? How long have you been in Delhi? So general icebreakers. So my interview technically started before I entered the interview room in a way. And then as soon as we entered the room, he looked at my CV and he started questioning me on this is my profile. So know about yourself question at all. So I had World on my CV and he was very intrigued. So he asked me very specific questions. That what were you doing? What was it like? What were the challenges? So started with that and then it went to the flow. Generally, it's about 30 minutes. That's the time that ISB was following for this batch mostly, but it could go up to an hour also. What I've heard from peers and even from the senior batches, ISB does not do stress interviews majorly. Like there could be exceptions. I've heard experience about stress interviews as well, but those are exceptions. Generally, ISB interviews are taken by ISB alums and they try to make the candidate as comfortable as possible. In my interview, I genuinely felt that the interviews were doing their best to understand me, my life journey, and my aspirations. I could see genuine effort from them just to have very comfortable and natural conversations. I didn't see them stressing about asking difficult questions at all. So it was a very comfortable one on one conversation. And in fact, one of the Preppie consultants gave me a tip during the mock interview I did that there's no need to stress about interviews per se because the interview process is designed for the interviewer to know the interviewee. So you just have to show a genuine picture of yourself. And nobody else in the world knows that picture, right? It's only the candidate who knows their picture. So there can be no wrong answer in it. You just have to explain yourself to them and tell them how genuinely you think you are a good candidate and what value you can add to ISP. That's all you have to portray. Yeah. So when I was preparing, the sense that I had was that ISB interviews are about our profile, as I also mentioned. And these are very opposite to typical IM interviews. IM interviews are all GK, like literally UPSC preparation level questions. So obviously, I wasn't prepared for that level of stuff. I just read about my profile, like my industry, and so on. But there was one question which was unexpected, which like the interviewer very casually asked me, Acha, do you read news? I was like, yeah, kind of. He was like, can you tell me some recent uh, top headlines? So that was something I was not prepared about. Thankfully, there was the India-Pakistan match going on at that very moment. So I just mentioned something about it. And then he asked me again, "Acha, anything else?" Then at that time, this Trump Musk news was coming where they were cutting all the government budgets. So then I mentioned about that, and that led to a very good conversation actually. When I mentioned this budget cuts that Elon Musk was doing, he asked me, "So what do I think about those cuts? What are the efficiencies or inefficiencies that any government has, be it in US or in India? What can be done about it?" So that one question about news actually led to a conversation. In hindsight, I feel that I could have been more prepared about that, but thankfully, I was still able to handle it. Yeah. So they did give me a chance to ask a question. So I had asked a question about ELPs that ISB does, experiential learning programs, and I had a very specific nuance that I wanted to clarify with them. So I asked them if a candidate can customize the ELP that they would want to participate in, like if they want to reach out to any organization and design something that meets their aspirations, is that an option or not? And the alums were very upfront in telling, yeah, that's an option, and how the that exactly happens. They explained the process also to me. So I took help from Preppie for my interview preparation. I had taken two mocks and they were super helpful because the USP that I saw when I was evaluating options of like when I was looking at consultant options, the USP I saw in Preppy was that Preppy was mapping candidates to ISB alums, which I think was a great value add. So when I reached out, I was given a surety that I will map be mapped to ISB alum only. So that person will basically have first-hand experience of the entire process. And that worked in great favor of me. I was mapped to two alums because I did two mocks. And the mapping was also very, I think, genuinely done because one of the alums was somebody who had more than 8 years of work ex before they joined ISB. So some similarity with me because I also have experience in similar range. And then one person was from social impact background. So whatever the nuances that they shared with me really helped me prepare for my interview. So, for example, one of the alums during the mock interviews told me that when I go for the interview, I do not have to worry about all the candidates who are applying for those 900 seats. My actual competition is just with the candidates who are in that experience bracket range of, say, more than 7, 8 years, who will eventually get only 40 seats. So, I'm fighting for those 40. So, my interview also has to reflect that experience basically because ISB is requirements from somebody who's 25 years old will be very different from the expectations from somebody who's say 30 or more. So I went with that mindset, and I think that really helped me. So very thankful to Preppie for the support, and yeah, will highly recommend it to other candidates. No doubts about it.